I'm Susana Sollazzo.
And I'm Michael Sollazzo.
And our journey to generosity started back in 2012.
I was always motivated to, achieve success financially and to be a good provider, but even more than that, in this culture we live in, so often men are motivated by money and prestige, and so that was part of the reason why I ended up becoming a CPA and then attorney, because I thought that, being in that career would ultimately lead to a good living that I could provide for my family. And then the Great Recession hit, and it was a very challenging time. And so I'll say that for me, even though I considered myself a Christian, my life didn't reflect it 7 days a week. And so really it was coming to the end of me, realizing that it wasn't all about what I could acquire in the kingdom that I could build for myself and my family. And it was during that time that I began the long journey of surrendering. And I don't think that that's something you do once. I think that's something you do multiple times. In fact, I know now it's a daily occurrence that you have to daily die to yourself. Ultimately for me, that happened in June of 2012, where I just honestly, I got down on my floor and I said, okay, God, I give up. I cannot do this. Ultimately, it was out of losing almost all of the things that were so important to me that I realized that I was focused on the wrong thing.
Because we were in a financial situation where it wasn't so great. Once we came to realize, we're like, wow, we have been given so much in regards to these treasures that God has allowed us to have it. So we want to be able to, be generous with others.
And so it was through that period of time that I ultimately recognized that it was not about building my kingdom, but about building God's kingdom. And I'll never forget, it was toward the end of 2012, what God did during that time was miraculous. And I'll never forget, again, writing this check. It was the biggest check that I had ever written to a church. And as I wrote that check, I just became overwhelmed with emotion. I started weeping, and God gave me that verse, "The Lord loves a cheerful giver." And I never really understood that until that moment. And it was just, I had so much gratitude because we were in such a difficult period of time.
I do remember when we talked about it and we looked at that check, we're like, wow, this feels really good. So we always kind of laugh about what it means to be generous, and it's an addiction. I mean, once you start giving, you're like, okay, so it's not just come from us, it just comes from obviously the gifts that God has given us to be able to give to others. So we giggle, we're like, this is great. Generosity, I think maybe it doesn't really come in, the world tells you that you don't really have to do that. But I think once you know how God has wired you and how God wants you to do, God wants you to be generous with all the gifts that He has given you.